We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
Swinging a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes!
Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Well, we're drunk on the Phils. It's well, Eric, if this, I don't know if this weather this summer could get wetter, warmer. Mark and I were talking yesterday. Like, it's just like, this is like a warmer spring. It's just like if spring were warm, and it's just wet all the time. It's just falling down. Like, it's just crazy. Yeah, it's just the humidity. I got stuff falling off the walls. Yeah. You got the Phillies grounding out into double plays in the strangest of ways.
They'll find a way.
They will. I mean, listen, it's. I saw a tweet. It was a highlight of that play, and it says it's your classic 4-2-6-2-5 double play.
Just mind-boggling.
Yeah. So, like, all right. So we're just past the halfway point. We're coming off the All-Star game in which Schwarber figured out a way to make the end of the game as exciting as it possibly could have been. So we'll talk all things All-Star game. We'll talk a little Schwarber contract talk after the game. Some post-game comments to kind of digest. Look ahead a little bit to the trade deadline. Talk to me about where you are. Let's talk about the All-Star game.
So I actually thought the All-Star game this year was pretty exciting. I mean, yeah, the NL jumped out to that early, pretty big lead. The AL brought it back. It was exciting. I mean, for an exhibition, like I'll be honest. Like, the other All-Star events in sports, I don't really watch. Like the NHL doing the international tournament this year, I did watch that, but I don't watch the Pro Bowl. I don't really. Every now and then I'll watch some like the skills competition for the NBA if like anything's going on, but I don't really watch a ton of it. The MLB All-Star, while it's still an exhibition game, and there's flaws to it obviously, but I think it's still one of the more exciting ones. But I quite frankly did not remember about that swing off rule to break a tie until like it was the ninth inning, and I think I saw like Jason Stark or someone tweeted that afterwards or right before it was about to happen. I'm like, oh, that's kind of fun. So it's a gimmicky way to end it, but I thought it was fun for an exhibition type game. So I thought it was actually a pretty good All-Star break in terms of entertainment value.
It's the All-Star game that is as close to the game as it possibly could be. I mean, listen, the NFL is a skills competition that doesn't even remotely get close, and it's hard to kind of have we know what exhibition football looks like. It's the preseason. Right. The NHL is you can't really fake that, but there's not a whole lot of defense. Right. Basketball, the defense is non-existent at all, so you can't really fake or kind of like passively go through a baseball game for whatever reason, and it definitely does translate. I loved the and we can kind of get it that exhibition way to kind of go through and not have the game just kind of like eternally drag on. I really did like. And yeah, obviously the whole thing goes on with Schwarber, where Schwarber comes up and they're down. They're down two. They're down three. It was 3-1 in
I think it was,
in
it's
that swing
3-1.
off, right?
Yeah.
And he comes up and does what he does best, right? And hits 3 consecutive home runs. They were no doubt about it. The way that the team reacted to it. The best part about it, some of the best parts about it, right, is that one, it happens in Atlanta, right? So it's happening in a rival's ballpark.
Yep.
But also, you also had Pete Alonso, who was in line to win the MVP, and Schwarber comes in, does that, and takes the MVP. So he managed to take and have those experiences shared with 2 of your biggest rivals. It just couldn't have gotten any sweeter.
Yeah, from a Phillies fan perspective, it really could not have gotten any better. Taking the potential MVP away from Alonso, and not even letting him swing the bat in the swing off. That was even better.
I forgot about that. Wow.
Because that dude lives for. Remember the old home run derby footage of him, like doing meditation and everything under the tunnel between his swings and everything. That dude lives to try to put on a home run show, and Schwarber robbed him of that. So that was kind of fun.
That's fabulous. I didn't even think about that. All right, so the other thing with the All-Star game, right? They use and implement the ABS system, which if there is not a more transparent way to be like, all right, this works. It works pretty efficiently. It doesn't extend the game. It doesn't. It doesn't really do to take much away from the game. What is happening that this is not just like a no doubt about it? Like, let's just put this in.
I mean, I have to think by next season we'll see it implemented. It
I
worked
gotta imagine.
fine during. Yeah, I mean, it worked. It was great during spring training, so all the guys got used to it there. It's been going on in the minor leagues now for a couple of years, and then putting it in the All-Star game. And I think we saw now we're seeing it kind of more on a larger stage, right, at the All-Star game. And there were a couple challenges, and it takes no time at all. I think what was it, like 7 seconds or something like that? It takes to review it, if that. Yeah. So it's really fast. It's a really good way to, and I like the way they do it, where it's, you can't just challenge everything, right? You get so many, and so you kind of got to be smart about it, right? But I think it's a great way to kind of hold some of these umpires accountable for some of these horrible calls that we'll see every now and then. And they're human, so they're going to make mistakes. It's the egregious ones that you kind of want to call them out on. But I mean, some of these are so close. Like even in the All-Star game, you could see some of them are literally inches on that square. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's a call. It's like, okay, I can see why an ump may have missed that call, but it's a good way then to say, okay, you can then the pitcher or hitter can kind of get their advantage back if there is one. So, and again, it doesn't take any time. They have the technology for it. There's no reason it should not be implemented by opening day of 2026.
I got to imagine it is, and I think the biggest pushback probably would be from your umpires union,
Mm-hmm.
right? That this is somehow I would think that what you could do, because they always have on that umpiring crew, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's always someone kind of there in case something happens to make sure that they have an extra if you employ one extra umpire to be in the stadium to be the one who operate right there's 16 extra jobs, right? There are ways to do this where you kind of incentivize the umpires union, and it also makes it for a better product, and it puts them less in the limelight when the calls are so egregiously negative.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think their only pushback would be, oh yeah, it shows that they make mistakes, and God forbid umps take accountability for anything. So that would be the only negative. But like you said, I mean, what it brings to the game and how it adds to the product of what you're watching is it's so much better. So quite frankly, figure out a way to appease them and let's hold them accountable a little bit.
Yeah. And I want to go back to the swing off a little bit because you had 3 guys from each team. But the 3 guys that you had, and I'm trying to find the tweet, but it's like the guys that all right. So it was from Jeff Passan, right? So you had Brent Rooker, you had Jonathan Aranda, and you had Randy Arozarena for the AL. You had Alonso, Kyle Schwarber, and Kyle Stowers for the NL. Very underwhelming groups of players. What you could have had was Aaron Judge, Cal Raleigh, Vlad Guerrero, Shohei Ohtani, Alonso, Schwarber, right? Like you could have had 2 monster groups of guys go. But you didn't. Because some of those guys had already left the stadium. When I heard that, I was like, wait. Not that they had like gotten changed. Not like they were out of the game and they left the stadium before the game was over. And listen, I know it's an exhibition game. I know this is like your one chance in the middle of the season to get your break. But you're in the industry of entertainment. And what? Like I didn't get for any amount of reasons.
Yeah, I thought I get it to an extent. It just never really occurred to me because we hadn't really ever seen anything like this. I'm like, I'm sure it happens all the time. But yeah, because originally when I was sitting there and I saw the tweet about the swing off in my head, I'm like, all right, I'm starting to put together if I'm Aaron Boone or if I'm Dave Roberts, who am I sending out there? And when I see like the NL, I feel like was like losing Ohtani was one person, but I think Schwarber and Alonso probably would have been in it anyway. But the AL, I think really took a hit by not having Judge and guys like Raleigh and those guys there. I get that it's an exhibition game. I get that it's their All-Star break, but like in the grand scheme of things, they saved what, like 2 hours?
2 hours.
I mean, maybe they had prior, but I mean, if you agree to go to the All-Star game, like you agree to go to the All-Star game, right? Like you kind of know the expectations.
Like you're getting home at what, like depending on where you're going, like you're getting home maybe 2 hours earlier. Like this,
Yeah.
it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like if you want, like if you wanted to like be like, oh, I'll go play in the game and then I'm going to leave. Like I don't know how like logistically you convey that to like to the manager, to how Major League Baseball would find out about that and be like, gotcha, you're good.
Yeah.
It's almost like you would rather be like, all right, if that's how you feel, maybe we'll just bring someone else. Like that I just don't know. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I'm like, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face because you're not saving like days on your trip. You're not like you're literally getting out of there like 2 hours earlier, which
right
in the grand scheme of things doesn't really mean a whole lot. Now, I know there has been a lot of conversation post All-Star game about the idea of implementing this kind of idea throughout the regular season. And I think on some level, maybe it could work, but universally speaking, I think I would be there would have to be a lot of parameters in place in order for me to be like, yes, let's do that.
Yeah, so I do not want to see that like decide an actual game, a game that matters in the standings. It's too gimmicky. Like for an All-Star game, it's perfect. Like because fans want to be entertained by it. Obviously, fans want to be entertained by regular season games too. But like to me, it's just such a different way. It doesn't really have anything to do with the game of baseball, right? Like even adding the runner at second, like I'm still kind of on the fence about having that in extra innings because it changes the whole dynamic of the game, right? The pitcher comes in at a complete disadvantage. Now, I know they're trying to speed it up, And I guess that would have kind of the same effect. But like it takes away every other aspect of what you've been doing those other 9 innings. And like it's fun in like an exhibition type setting, but I think in a regular season game, I guess like shootout, like the best thing to compare it would be like a shootout in the NHL, right? And I know like hockey purists are very much against the idea of the shootout. But again, I mean, I guess it's a little closer to the game, but like you're giving guys free breakaways, right? Where
Yeah.
in here you're giving guys free batting practice, basically. And to me, it's too gimmicky to put into a game that actually matters when there could be postseason implications on the line. And also, you look at the disparity between power hitting clubs, right? Like, okay, the Phillies are in a pretty good situation. I know they're not hitting a ton of home runs right now, but I mean, you can probably think of 3 or 4 guys who you could put out there every single time. But then there's other clubs out there that just don't really have power hitters. Also, the ballpark you're in has an effect in it too. So it's just like
Sure.
there's too many factors I think that go into it that changes the dynamic of what you're trying to accomplish.
All right. So I tried to think about because hockey, what hockey has going on is essentially the closest equivalent to it, right? And with hockey, they don't go right to the shootout, right? They have that initial 3-on-3 overtime, which is kind of equivalent to the runner on second, right? So you've got like in both instances, right, after the minimum amount of innings or the required amount of innings, right? You go to the extra run, right? You get the runner at second. In hockey, you get the 3-on-3. What about and then after that 3-on-3, if it's still tied, then they go to the shootout. What about something similar in a sense where like you have the extra runner, but like if it's still tied after the 12th, right? Like you play an extra 3 innings, you play a third of the game, it's still tied. What about in that sense, right? Like that would be kind of like, yeah, listen, I know that we all kind of love those 17 inning, right? Ends at 2:30 in the morning. But what about something like that where there are some parameters? It's not something that's like, all right, you're tied after 9, And the other thing I thought about was like, you wouldn't get to cherry pick your guys. It would just be you follow the batting order. Your next 3 guys in the batting order. That to me would be kind of like some of the things that I would want to put in place that would kind of make it as close to or as make it as close to the original game, kind of with like the hockey equivalent.
That I would be, again, maybe like it would still probably take some convincing, but I'd be more on board with that. Have them, because now even with the ghost runner on set or the runner on second to start extra innings, you rarely see games go past really 11 innings or 12 innings. So if that were the case and you're saving bullpen arms and stuff like that, I could maybe get behind it a little bit more. Because then, yeah, you're kind of that is more equivalent to what the NHL does. So I guess in that case, if you did it like if you played a full 12 innings and then, like you said, I kind of like what you said there about it's just like you don't get to choose. It's just kind of who's up next, because that adds some strategy for a manager too. Because it's like, well, now defensively, I'm not going to take out this guy because he might need to swing later on. So I mean, obviously, it's a game of chance at that point, but it adds some interesting strategy that's probably never really been thought of from baseball managers.
Yeah, and I like the other thing I thought about is like if it's a sense where you get like if you've got Rojas up, you can still take a guy off of your bench and put him in,
yeah,
and pinch hit just like you would pinch hit up and down your roster, but it would kind of it would build at least a little bit of intrigue, and it adds that extra layer of strategy in those extra inning games where you see managers taking more chances to kind of push those runs across. But I just it got my mind thinking about like how do we maybe kind of wrap our heads around this as a potential idea with the idea that like it's a complete novelty.
Right.
All right, so the Schwarber contract extension. The conversations after the game, right? They've split the first 2 games with the Angels, right? They're going to play. They have the next 3, 4, 5 series against the AL, right? So they're not
August
going to
11th.
see it.
Yeah.
So you've got until the middle of August that you're going to play against the AL teams, right? You've got the trade deadline coming up. Talk to me about the post game comments in relationship to both Harper and Schwarber kind of talking about that contract extension.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like it has to get done. I know Dombrowski doesn't really typically operate negotiating in season, so I'm not really that worried about it yet. Like, obviously, I would love to wake up to the news or be sitting there and see that that they've reached an extension. But I really don't expect anything to happen until after the season's over. But it sounds like Schwarber wants to stay here. The players want him here. He's a clubhouse leader. And if you take him out of this lineup, like this lineup already is frustrating as anything. And until he hit that grand slam last night, I had a very different tone of how I was going to be speaking today. Still don't love the offense. However, you take Schwarber out of this offense, like we might average like this team might average like 2.5 runs a game.
You're not lying.
I'm exaggerating maybe a little bit, but like
not a whole lot though.
No, because I mean, there's really like Harper seems to be getting his power back a little bit, but other than that, like there is zero source of power in this lineup. And Schwarber does so many other things too. Like obviously, yeah, the most fun thing is watching him hit absolute missiles out of the stadium, but like he gets on base, and I really feel like Harper is like the face of the franchise, but I really feel like this lineup kind of goes with Kyle Schwarber. I think he kind of sets the pace with how this lineup is operating.
I mean, he is the straw that stirs the drink right now.
Yeah.
Right? He is the guy that teams are pitching around that are fearful of in this lineup. And you're starting to see Harper's back come back, right? Like he's got his I bookmarked it last night, right? So his last 11 hits, and this I saw that this was from Paul Casella, right? That his last 11 hits: home run, double, single, double, home run, double, right? 10 extra base hits over the last 6 games. The most extra base hits in any 6-game span in his career. So you can see that like maybe the recovery from the injury has kind of gotten, we've gotten on the other side of that. You're starting to see his ability to be able to drive the ball in the gaps, drive the ball opposite field. And when he's going like opposite field, opposite gap, that's when you can kind of tell that he's kind of on it. And the other thing that they mentioned in the broadcast last night, you're not seeing a lot of swing and miss at those giant sweeping breaking balls.
Yeah. It's funny. Like I feel like the few games he played prior to the All-Star break kind of acted as like a rehab assignment for him. Like he got to see some pitching again because he missed a lot of time. So that kind of because he was relatively unimpressive. I felt prior to the All-Star break, and then obviously it's only been 2 games, but now you can kind of see it, and it looks like there's a rhythm there. Because Castellanos chases that like low and away pitch. That's kind of like what he's known for. Harper, I feel like, chases the breaking balls that just fall out of the bottom of the zone, and sometimes he can look kind of bad doing that. And I think right now we're seeing Bryce kind of like locked back in, and that's huge. Having him and Schwarber going at the same time at the top of the lineup, especially when you have, I mean, JT's been hitting the ball pretty well lately,
Yeah.
but when there's so many guys in this lineup that I do not trust to do anything productive.
It's really a shame, right? Because the power that you're getting from Schwarber, and the resurgence of Harper coming out of his his most recent stretch of games. You really are seeing the need to address the extra power hitter in this lineup somewhere. And I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't really like. Before, we were kind of focused on the fact that like it should be a right-handed power bat. Now I don't really care.
I don't care.
Like I don't care if it's right, left. I don't care if they switch it. Doesn't matter. They need to add somebody else in this lineup that people are fearful of, because they really do know that if they can get past that, if they can get past Schwarber and Harper, the playbook to navigate the rest of the lineup is not super complicated.
No, I'm with you. I don't think it matters what handedness the guy hits. I think, but there's got to be, and again, it doesn't need to be a superstar that we get, but it's got to be someone who has some pop and someone who just can like add some extra protection in the lineup. Like, I don't know how available these guys would be, but you look at, like, right now we're playing the Angels, and Taylor Ward and Joe Adell. Both guys have been hitting, like, both are over 20 home runs already on the season. Now but again, you look at their overall numbers, right? They don't hit for high average, so they fit perfectly in with some of these guys. They have a tendency to strike out, so there we go. Check another box, but they can also hit some home runs. So the biggest thing that I need to see like Max Kepler. They did it for me last night. He did not see an inning. Rojas was up against a righty, and they did not pinch hit Kepler, which I think says a lot. And Rojas actually hit a sac fly. He actually drove a ball a little bit, so it actually worked out. But the fact that you're relying on you trust Johan Rojas against a righty more than you trust a guy, a lefty on your bench, says a lot about
it really does.
Kepler's time in Philadelphia, I think.
Oh God, it's such a shame, because it's like you can see that there are pieces there, but the way that they're being used or implemented really does kind of like it makes you think twice about the fact that, like, what do we have to do and who do we have to bring in for like Kepler has wildly underperformed in the role that he's in. Now, if he's a guy coming off your bench, maybe that's a role that he's more suited for. But the fact that you have a platoon at two of your positions in the outfield, right? You've got now the Bohm injury where he's going to be on the IL for, I don't know, let's just call it 10 days, 2 weeks. So now you're going to see a platoon with some combination of Edmundo Sosa and, Stott at second. You're going to see Edmundo Sosa and probably, and Otto Kemp at third. Like, you've got, for a team that's in first place, you've got four positions currently that you are platooning guys, which cannot be a good recipe for what's going on.
Yeah, that obviously the Bohm injury definitely throws a whole nother wrench into the whole thing, because honestly, the way Stott's been hitting, he's almost turned into a platoon player with Sosa at this point too. It looks like,
Yeah.
So it's really not ideal. And then Sosa, we've talked about this before. I think we've probably talked about it almost every other time we're on here about Sosa, because he gets on these like crazy hot streaks, and everyone's like, he should be playing every day. He should be playing every day. And then he starts getting all this playing time. And like, he had an at bat last night. I forget what it was like. It was a little bit later in the game, and it might have been one of the most atrocious at bats I've ever seen. Like, he chased 3 pitches that were nowhere close to the strike zone. And it's like,
Yeah.
he can be good. I love Edmundo Sosa, but like he's a role guy, right? He's not an
But
everyday
again,
player, and there's a
a
reason.
guy who is good in his role and in his
Exactly.
role, right? And you've heard guys like Charlie Manuel talk about, right? Guys like, you let a guy play long enough, and the book is out, and their effectiveness in the line, and then everybody's wildly shocked that he's good when he plays like 2 times a week, and he gets his 10, 12 at bats, and you figure out a way to kind of negotiate him in the lineup. But getting him to play 6 days a week, the effectiveness wears off really, really quickly.
Yeah, and now with the injury to Bohm and with Stott not playing well, like he's kind of forcing himself into playing way more. So I think he's going to get a shot right now, and we'll see.
Yeah.
I hope he proves me wrong and he gets on a little heater here, but I'm just not really expecting it.
Yeah, and listen, and we got the drunk on the birds host Joe checking in, and we can kind of transition right into the trade deadline in terms of like, obviously bullpen and center field are two of the most talked about positions. Talk to me about where you are, right? Because we're approaching kind of like the witching hour in terms of like whether or not teams make decisions on whether or not they're going to be like, you got teams like the Pirates, you got teams like the Twins, you're cherry picking off of like, I know that there's some conversation a lot in the NL Central with teams like Minnesota and Cleveland. What is your kind of where's your mind frame at in terms of looking at the guys that they could possibly address?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely. I totally agree with Joe there. The bullpen help, and whether it's center field or because Marsh is not the best center fielder, but if we could get a left fielder and maybe plug Marsh in there, I'd be okay with it. But the ones you were talking about going to Minnesota and Cleveland, I think have some really intriguing options there. Now the one I would absolutely love would be Byron Buxton, but he already said he's not waiving his no trade clause. I mean, things can happen, but he sounds pretty dead set and not leaving Minnesota.
I mean,
But they have a couple guys.
He did make that pretty clear at the All-Star game.
Yeah. So it kind of sounds like he doesn't want to go. He's and the thing is like, if you asked me last year, I would have been like, he can't stay healthy. He's good when he's on the field, but he's never on the field. This year, we're seeing what he's doing when he is healthy, and he can really hit. But so I'm not really getting my hopes up in that regard. Cleveland's interesting because they have Clase. I've seen some ideas of trade packages with Clase and Stephen Kwan. That would be an interesting one. Kwan's just a guy who doesn't really strike out. He can get on base. He's not going to be a big power guy for you, but if he can kind of set the table, it could be interesting. And he'd be in there every day. But there's other options out there too. Like I saw some, I'm sure you saw them too. Some of the guys in Pittsburgh's bullpen, Bednar and
Bednar.
Why am I blanking on the setup guy's name?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I can't think of his name off the top of my head. There's some interesting options. The thing right now is like what it looks like the Phillies are going for is, or they're tied to a lot, are relievers with team control. And the way the market is setting up right now, it's such a seller's market. They can ask for pretty much anything. And the haul that the Phillies are going to have to give up to get a reliever and a position player with any team control is going to be, I think people are going to look at the trade package that has to go out there and be shocked. But I mean, we're talking probably 2 of the top 5 prospects, probably 1 in the top 10, and then probably another one in your top 20 prospects. Like it's going to be a haul that have to be shipped out. And I think it's a balance, right? Like obviously they're in a position where, you need to go for it because this core is not getting any younger. But at the same time, we saw what happened when they kind of did that at the end of, Ruben Amaro's tenure as GM. And when the farm system was just completely depleted and we had to go through 2012 through 2018, basically with just no shot at a playoff situation. And some of those rosters, like I love when people pull up like on this day in 2015, this is the lineup. And I'm just like, how did we watch those teams for that long? So it's a careful balance, but I mean, I'm at the point where prospects are prospects, right? I remember when they were talking about trying to get Roy Halladay back, during the last streak here.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give up some of those guys because of what we heard about them, but then none of those guys that we gave up really became impactful major league players. Some
I
never did at
mean,
all.
yeah, you're talking about guys like Jason Donald, right? You're talking
Yeah.
about guys like a guy that's in here this weekend, right? Travis d'Arnaud was part of that trade to Toronto.
Yeah, he's like one of the only guys. Him and he wasn't part of the Halladay trade, but like Carlos Carrasco was another top prospect who he's never been like a top of the line major league pitcher, but he's held his own. He's been in the league now for a while. But then you had guys like Kyle Drabeck, who is a surefire thing and never threw an inning in the major leagues.
I mean, look at
Dominic Brown,
the JT Realmuto trade,
yeah,
right?
Sixto,
Sixto
yep,
Sanchez, right? A
yep.
guy that was supposed to be the next latest and greatest and got to Miami and just, I mean, fizzled out is being kind. Like he
Mhm.
just became almost non-existent in their prospects pool.
Yeah. So again, I'm okay. Like you have to make the team better right now, and even 2026, 2027. I think you gotta pull the trigger, make a move. I just think it's going to be a shocking haul that has to be sent out to get any of these guys that we're really talking about, especially if we're trying to fill the need of outfield and bullpen kind of in the same trade.
All right. So if we're talking about the trade that you're talking about, right? Like, and just for a hypothetical, right? We're talking about an outfield prospect and a reliever. So, like with the Indians, it would be like a Clase and Quan. With the Twins, not that they've made it apparent, but like it would be a combination of one of the two relievers that they've made available plus a Buxton like player. The package that would have to be included, right? I got to imagine that it includes, I mean, if you're talking about Painter, you're talking about, Aiden Miller, you're talking about Crawford. I got to imagine that the two position players are guys that teams are going to want. By the time they're playing meaningful games, is the window already closing?
And that's the tough part, right? Like Crawford seems like he could be kind of more imminent than a guy like Miller.
Yeah.
But like they still seem hesitant to bring him up. Miller is, he struggled at the onset in Double A. He's gotten a little bit. He's gotten a little hotter. He's striking out a lot, so he has some adjustments to make there. But I still think he's good enough where he'll figure it out. He's still way younger. He's still a lot younger than a lot of the Double A talent. So I think he's still got a year or two to figure that stuff out. So I think it really depends. Like, what do they do with what do they bring Schwarber back? Like, I think if they don't bring Schwarber back, I think the window is like very, very slightly ajar. Like, I mean, it's coming to an end. Like, so I think unless they replace him with someone else who's kind of on that level, but I think like a lot's going to depend. But I really think like the 2026 Phillies have a shot. But the problem here is though is like the guys that they're relying on, right? Like Bryson Stott to kind of bounce back isn't. Rojas has never taken that next step. Like these little patchwork guys that we're bringing in during the offseason, like Max Kepler's and Austin Hayes. Obviously, his situation was a little bit different because of injuries and that kidney thing. Like they're not working out. So there's a lot of things that the front office is banking on that just aren't happening. So there's got to be. I think we're going to start seeing shakeups if this team fizzles out again. So I think it's really hard to say like when these guys are going to be ready to make their impact. I think Crawford could be as soon as next year, maybe even a little bit if they make some move, in September if they bring anyone up. But I don't think they're going to be ready in the next. Like Miller's not going to be here probably for at least 2 more years.
Yeah, it's God. I mean, I'm at the point now where like those guys, what you always have to bank on whatever the like if you are getting the best player at the time that the trade is made, then you make the trade. We've seen so many of those guys come down the line. So many of those guys that were the next promised guy that just never amounted to anything. And there's so much instability from year to year from these prospects, right? And even during the season, right? We would have thought that that Painter would have been here at this point. And now we're talking about mid to late August. We're seeing him struggle, still having those struggles. I look at this and I go, just make the trade. Like you're at a point now where you have the roster and you have the structure to be able to make a couple of moves. And even with as bad as you've been playing, with as inconsistent you have been playing, with as poor base running as you have made, as the bad decisions at the plate, you're still in first place. You still have the fourth best record. Is it probably the fourth best record in Major League Baseball, in and around there?
Somewhere around there,
yeah. You I'm talking myself into it, but like you're not that far away, right? No. It's not taking much for me to be like you're not that far away from really taking a serious run at this thing. And the thing that and you and I have kind of gone back and forth with this all season, but like their starting pitching is going to be what sets them apart in the playoffs. Like they have by far and away the best starting rotation in Major League Baseball. And because of the excess of what they have, that is going to make their bullpen exponentially stronger in the playoffs. And you have the opportunity to maybe bring up, a Painter and put him in your bullpen to have, where you're not seeing those late inning guys now. All of a sudden, when you pull out one of your starters, Taijuan Walker is not starting any more games, right? Aaron Nola comes back, and maybe Aaron Nola is a late inning guy. Maybe Andrew Painter is a late inning guy. Maybe, like who knows? But like it could go from like when this team and their rotation is really, really built for when they get into a series. I mean, if you're starting a series with Zach Wheeler, and then you're talking about Christopher Sanchez, and then some combination of Jesus Luzardo and Ranger Suarez, like I know you're kind of left-handed heavy, but like if all those other guys are in your bullpen, I mean, you're not seeing guys that you saw, all throughout the season kind of throw away games. It just makes it really easy for me to kind of, play, just get them to the finish line, like get them there, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and that's why I think like the Phillies need to make a move for at least one bullpen arm at the trade deadline. But we also have to remember Jose Alvarado is coming back in early August. Obviously not eligible for the postseason, but like you said, the abundance of starting pitching kind of fixes that need itself, right? I think it's going to be Luzardo going to the bullpen in the postseason, just because like he has dirty stuff, but like it seems like he pitches well for a couple innings, and then like he has that inning that kind of like starts to fall apart right now.
He's got that rad fourth inning.
He does, right? He's making sure that we're not missing a beat with Aaron Nola. Because Nola's going to be back, and he's not pitching out of the pen. Like I just don't see that happening. So I think
especially if they go like if they want to go like right left.
Yeah, exactly. So and Nola's going to be fresh. Like he is not thrown. So this is going to be the least amount of innings he's thrown probably since like his rookie season. Whereas Luzardo is throwing more innings than he's thrown in quite some time. So I think it's probably better to put Luzardo in the pen. Nola has such a his reputation is very spotty, right? Like, I mean, I'm a big Nola guy, but I know there's a lot of people there who are not Nola guys. But they're when the postseason comes around, they're in decent shape when it comes to the bullpen. But what is terrifying to me is if there's no move made to improve the lineup and get a spark plug in there, they can't right now. Like, they can't hit average pitching. When you go to the postseason, you see the best pitching in baseball. Like, how are you going to hit these guys when you can't hit? I mean, the Angels have like not actually had a starter really pitch at all in this series. So it's just like, I don't know, like the lineup. Well, the bullpen is extremely frustrating, and we've seen some meltdowns, and we'll probably see more. The scariest part to me is the offense, but I don't like. There's not really a ton of options out there to fix it, I don't think. But I think it's equally as important to get a spark plug in the lineup, because that's not something that's going to get better in the postseason, right? Whereas the bullpen, you don't need as many starters. You have an abundance of that already. You can kind of fix that in house. Whereas the offense, there's nothing in house to help fix that right now.
I got a trade proposal for you.
Go ahead, let's hear it.
Two guys that we had talked about last year, both on a team that's struggling. Some of it, I think, has to do with the team situation and the ballpark, but on the A's, right? Brent Rooker and Mason Miller. And I know, like, last year we were talking about that combination of a package. I would almost tell you that, like, if you could add, obviously, right, Brent Rooker, all-star, prolific home run hitter, in this ballpark, that wildly intriguing to kind of put him in a place where the ball will fly out in a place where he is going to exert power. The A's are really in a position where they're kind of in this influx where they're like competitive, but not really. And they're the whole thing with the ballpark and then move into Vegas. And that timeline has kind of like been flexible and pushed back. And I'd be curious, because by the time they get to that new ballpark, those guys are not going to be pieces that are going to be in the mix. Mason Miller also having not having statistically not nearly as great of a year. Some of that may be a little bit to do with the ballpark. Any chance that either one of those guys is on the move?
I don't think so, just because of team control and the A's don't want to pay anyone. Because right now you have an all-star, and Mason Miller will be an all-star. It's a little sophomore slump, I think, here. But I don't see the A's have no motivation to move those guys, because if they were on a contract year and they were going to lose them anyway, then I think they try to trade them as rental pieces. But right now, I don't think the A's have any motivation to trade any of those guys, because they actually have like a kind of intriguing offense with like a very low payroll. And that's, I mean, the A's don't want to pay any, they're like the AL's version of the Pirates, them and the Rays, not really wanting to pay anyone. But both the A's, again, they're not a playoff team, but like they've shown little flashes, right? And they actually have. But I think the pitching's getting hurt in the AAA ballpark they're playing in right now, kind of like you alluded to with Mason Miller's numbers. And the Rays are kind of in the same boat, right? Like they're, but they're always like somewhat competitive, even though they don't spend any money. They're kind of a fascinating situation there, but it's like I just don't see Rooker, Miller, any of those guys on the move from the A's, just because I don't think they have a motivation to do it, unless if Dombrowski calls up and says, "We'll give you our 5 top prospects. What do you think? Give us who you're willing to give us." Maybe, right. But I don't think Dombrowski's motivated to do that either. When there's other guys out there who I think can be maybe not as effective as Rooker, but as effective as Mason Miller, who you could probably get cheaper.
And then the other guy I was talking was any chance that we see Crawford this year. I got to imagine that the production that you would get in the field and at the plate has to be equivalent, if not a plus from Crawford to the between Rojas and Marsh.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I mean, he's had a really good season from an offensive standpoint, and he is really good defensively. Like, I mean, almost like Johan Rojas ability
Right?
defensively. So I think like he's almost there. I think the hesitance with bringing him up right now is just like he is driving the ball more this year. So like we're starting to, but when they're not going to call him up to hit 25 home runs, right? He's going to be a guy who maybe hits 10 home runs a season if you're lucky. But he's going to get on base. He's got speed and he can play defense. To me, I think, especially when the rosters expand in September, why not? Like,
Right.
you're not, especially by then, you might not have Max Kepler on your team anymore. Rojas has shown that he's not getting a ton of playing time. Like, why not give the guy a shot, see what you have in him, and kind of go from there? So I would say maybe by that point, or if there's an injury, they might go from there. I think it also depends a lot on what happens at the trade deadline and if they acquire any outfielders then.
Yeah, like my thought was in the last couple of days, like he slots in at center field. You take Kepler out, you slide Marsh over. I think you're defensively you get better in terms of right. Like we know Castellanos kind of is what it is, and he's been about as good as he could possibly be defensively. But I think you get a lot better defensively with those two guys. And the production that you would get with the combination of Crawford and Marsh is better than what you're getting from the Marsh, Rojas, Kepler group.
Yeah. The only issue with platooning with Marsh is I think they're both lefties. But again, I'm at the point where, like, especially because we have Schwarber and Harper, who it doesn't matter. Like, actually, Schwarber has better splits against lefties than he does righties this year, which is kind of wild. But like that does so to me. There's certain guys who that affects, certain guys who it doesn't. I think honestly, what you could do is if you just put Crawford in center, move Marsh to left field. Marsh is going to be a much better defensive player in left field than he will center field, and Crawford can. I have no doubt that he can patrol center field right now in a major league stadium. How's his offense going to translate from AAA to Major League Baseball?
Who knows?
Yeah,
who knows? Anything? I'm trying to go through my notes. Anything you want to talk about that we didn't talk about today?
The draft. The draft. Duh.
The draft.
Loved it.
I gotta say, the thoughts and the ideas. The kid that they picked out of Arkansas, that obviously didn't have a ton of innings this year. Floating the idea that he just is like a September call up. The personality fits in.
He's a maniac.
Electric stuff, right? Throws in the mid to high 90s. Talk to me about the draft, right? Because obviously they go pitching heavy.
Really pitching heavy, yeah.
A lot of college guys, which tells me they're trying to fix the bullpen stuff internally.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about the guys that they picked. And not grading, but like how'd you feel coming out of the guys that they picked?
I really liked it. I was definitely surprised with how college pitcher heavy they went, considering Brian Barber and his team's proclivity to kind of go with a high upside high school bat usually. But I think they realize right now that they can't just keep having bullpen issues, and maybe they were drafting some of these guys to take the place because they know that some of these pitching prospects might be on the move, right? Gene Cabrera could be on the move as a potential trade bait. If Moises Chaste was healthy, maybe they could think about moving him because now you're getting guys to fill that in. Mick Abel maybe even. But Gage Wood, it sounds like he could be potentially seeing some time this year or next year. 2, 3, and 4. I forget all of their names in the order that they picked them. Those guys, I
Right.
really like all their stuff, but I don't see them up this year. Their 5th round pick, though, Gabe Craig, has been compared kind of to Orion Kirkering with in terms of like his pitch mix. He has like a really nasty slider. Brian Barber said that they graded out as a 70 already, like in the major leagues on the 20 to 80 scale. So that's really, really intriguing. You know, obviously Kirkering's more of the sweeper, but this is just like a nasty slider. I watched some of his highlights, and he's just got like a hard fastball. So, and he was redshirted 1 year in college. So he was like a draft prospect for like 6 years. So he's 24. He's the same age as Kirkering right now, actually.
Okay.
And so like they could fast track him potentially once he gets signed, and we'll see how he pitches in the minors for a little bit. But I think they're looking at some guys that maybe this year or next year can potentially be bullpen pieces. It sounds like Gage Wood, they want to kind of keep on that starter track going into next season. Whereas this Gabe Craig guy sounds like he's strictly in here for relief help.
Right. So the kid that you're talking about, right? Mostly, right, his use in high leverage spots, late inning games, pitching at Baylor. But guys that are older, guys that are more experienced, guys that are more likely to end up in the majors earlier on, you know, less project based. But for me, when I look at Gage Wood and I look at, you know, at least in this microcosm of this season, what he has coming out of college seems better than some of the guys that are here right now. And obviously, right, we take it for what it is, right? College,
right? It's a little different,
and it's definitely different, and you're going to see a different level of professional hitter. But what are we really talking about? If you can come in late innings and get 3 outs, right? Especially for a player that teams don't have a book on, that could be a huge play in your bullpen. And you've seen teams do that before, right? You've seen teams, you know, pull a prospect out of their minor league system and kind of throw them in, like similar to what they did with Kirkering a couple seasons ago.
Yeah,
right?
fast track him.
Like if he has the opportunity to get fast tracked, right? You're talking about, you know, he really quality stuff, right? The fastball that is electric up in the zone, has a lot of pitches that have a ton of movement on them. And just the mentality and the personality will play really well in this city, especially in the postseason.
Imagine him getting like a big strikeout with guys on base to end like the 7th or 8th inning in a postseason game.
I mean, you saw it in the College World Series.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like it might register on like the Richter scale out between his emotions and the fans just like getting behind him and feeding off of that. It would be absolutely electric. So yeah, that would be a lot of fun. His fastball is really filthy. I could totally see him being a helpful piece in the bullpen this year at some point. But there's obviously a lot of factors that go into it. But you made a good point earlier saying about how they drafted a lot of guys who are not like projects per se, right? They have the stuff there. Now it's just okay, little tweaks, right? It's not like you have to develop this guy as much. So I think that was kind of their plan, like doing things that are going to help. Okay, the maybe 2025 Phillies, probably the 2026 Phillies, and some of these guys, we could be seeing, 3 or 4 of these guys in the bullpen, or even as starting pitching prospects, by next season. So, very intriguing draft, and I want to see Gage Wood in a Phillies uniform really badly because I think he would be super fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about and He threw 119 pitches in that no-hitter against Murray State in the College World Series. And even in those late innings when he's throwing those pitches that are, pitch, 115, 116, 117, like those pitches are all still in the 96 to 97, 98. So the fact that he's going that late in the game, that he's got that ability to maintain that speed, that's not going away in the next couple weeks. So, like, I think that it's definitely something to think about. So, but the focus on pitching, right? I think that they only drafted a handful of position player prospects. I think the message is very clear.
Yeah.
The bullpen needs help, and it needs to be fixed internally so that you're not constantly giving up on these prospects, which also could make some of those prospects that are already in your system maybe a little bit more available.
Yeah.
So, all right, Eric, anything else before we jump out?
Let's challenge the Phillies offense today and see if they can ground into 0 double plays. I do not want to see any double plays. I don't care if they strike out 17 times. Do not hit the ball on the ground with a runner anywhere, because now we saw that it's not just a guy, not just a force out situation. They can figure out a grounded double plays in any scenario. So let's not do that.
Oh God, Eric. I mean, listen, we're ending in the same place where we started.
It's just too fun. Like it was maddening, but the fact that they won the game, I'm like now laughing about it.
Yeah.
But I was ready to, and I don't turn games off, but I was ready to walk away from the TV for a little bit, because I'm like, how in the world? And they're like 2 of your best players too. Like they're not like usually how it involved all 3 of your best players, that double play, and it still happens. Anyway,
listen, on the way out. Go Phils.
Go Phils.
Hey, listen to this guy. Tell me how you're feeling here. You're screaming.
I am stoked, baby.
You're screaming like it's still the game going on.
We're talking about the fightings here. The fightings. Said.
Said, Mike.